Hey y'all, it's your girl Hope TV Movie Bestie, and I watch good shit. And I just got done watching this week's episode of The Testaments. Now the votes are in. It's Commander Weston for Agnes and Garth for Becca. The girls go to school, and the engaged girls, they go to copulation class, while the rest of the girls do other stuff. So Agnes, she hyped. She's so excited because she's like, we're gonna learn what being a wife is and having a baby. Aunt Vidalia, she comes in and she shows them their vessel. And this is a drawing on the board. And she says on their wedding night, their husband will guide them into what to do. All they have to do is be meek and differential. Okay, pillow princess. Agnes is like, oh, I thought there would be more. And then Aunt Vidalia immediately goes into prenatal care and nutrition. And I said, this was worse than sex ed in middle school with your gym teacher who looked like she never had sex a day in her life. So after class, Hulda, she has a secret and she confides in Agnes. And the secret is Becca's daddy molested her too. But she was awake. She said he took his hand and pressed it against his body. And so she feels bad, she's ashamed because she's like, oh my gosh, I tempted him with my flesh and God is going to punish me. And Agnes is like, no, Hulda, you have to go to the aunts. You have to tell them. And she's like, oh no, I can't. And she's like, no, Hulda, no one is supposed to do that but your husband. And she said, you got to go tell him. You have to go forward. And I'm like, well, Agnes, you didn't quite give yourself this speech, did you? There's another secret. Daisy, she's blooming. Daisy done got her period. I said, oh, Lord. Later in the episode, we learned that Hulda actually did come forward. Of course, Aunt Vidalia was like, this must have been your own imagination. This couldn't have possibly happened. And so she brings Agnes in and she says, Agnes, I understand Hulda told you about this misunderstanding. And she's like, we don't want this to get out. Let's just squash it. It shouldn't go past this room. After all, we wouldn't want to jeopardize Hulda's chances of getting married. What? Agnes says, you know what? You're right. And in the hallway, Hulda, she apologizes to Agnes and she says, I'm sorry. I must have dreamt this up in my head. And Agnes says, you know what? You have so much to look forward to. And let's just focus on your engagement and what kind of beautiful, happy life that you're going to live and you're going to have. And Hulda's like, you think so? And she's like, oh, I know so. And so she's like, okay, you're right. In weaving class, that's what the other girls are doing. Daisy, she done stole somebody's little project and she using it as a pad. So this little girl, she run around looking for her pot holder. Daisy got it between her legs. Class is over and Shu comes up to her and she's like, I know you stole that girl's pot holder. And she's like, you got to give it back to her. And Daisy said, trust me, she don't want it. She was like, well, how long are you going to wait? You're not going to tell the aunts? And Daisy is like, they're going to marry me off. Like, I just can't. I can't say anything. So Shu is just like, I can't believe it. Here I am, still don't have my period. I've been doing everything right, everything I'm supposed to, and I'm going to end up a withered prune. Daisy's like, look, you don't have to be happy for me because she says, all my friends have gotten it. I have to pretend to be happy for them. And she was like, trust me, nobody here is happy about me getting my period. Shu, she breaks down, she starts crying, and she says she can't disappoint her family. She tells Daisy that her little brother was taken on the day of tears, from The Handmaid's Tale when they stole all the children. Not stole them, when they reclaimed all the children. And so her little brother was taken. And she said her mama has never quite got over it. She has a picture of him that she keeps. And she said, my mom doesn't deserve this. Like, I need to do something great for my family. Daisy's like, okay, look, well, do you want to know about sex? And so she was like, oh my gosh, yes, tell me everything. Daisy explains it perfectly. Almost scientifically, but not quite. Very clearly. And Shu is like, oh, whoa, wow. Daisy's like, yep. And she was like, because she described the penis as a rod of flesh. And Shu was like, yeah, right. And then she said that, the sperm swims up and sometimes it attaches with an egg in the woman, and that's how you fertilize an egg and get a baby. And Shu is like, swim up the woman? Yeah, right. And she's like, you must think I'm stupid. And I'm like, Shu, boy, you're going to be in for quite the surprise come your wedding night. And if you think that's crazy, wait till you have a baby. Like, girl, you are not ready. Daisy's just like, okay, well, I guess that went well. They go to Becca's engagement party. Agnes's dad, he's talking to Agnes and he's like, are you happy? And she's like, well, I'm going to marry Commander Weston, so I guess that makes you happy. And he said, well, I'm happy when you're happy. And so she's like, she asked him if he likes Commander Weston. And he's, well, I think he's the right choice. And he says, your mom, Paula, she's happy. She's getting to plan a wedding. She loved when she got a task to do. He said, and she's talking about for us getting a handmaid. And so Agnes is just like, Daddy, it's going to be okay. And he's like, you know what? Go on back to the party. Don't sit around with this old grumpy man. Penny, she's also at the party. Y'all, Penny looked like warmed up death. Poor thing. And so they're like, Penny, how are you? We've been praying for you, girl. And she said, I just get so tired. And she's like, we're getting ready to leave, but I hope I'll see y'all soon. Agnes and Daisy, they go and wish Becca and Garth, congratulations on their engagement, all this. Well, while this is happening, Garth's father, he starts getting upset. He's in a wheelchair. And so his wife says, can y'all take him outside, get some fresh air? And so Daisy volunteers to go and help. So Garth and Daisy, they take Garth's dad outside. And Daisy gives him some water. And she's like, what? And so Garth is like, oh, he can't understand anything. We can talk freely. And so she's like, what happened to him? And he said, well, it was attempted suicide by Mayday. And she's like, whoa, Freud would have a field day with you. Mayday tried to kill your daddy and you working for Mayday. And he said, look, my father is the bravest, most courageous person I know. He was just fighting for the wrong side. She said, well, what you gonna do about this marriage? How you gonna get out of that? And he said, well, I'm not gonna try to get out of it. And she said, you don't love her? And he's like, I never said I did, and I didn't think that I would ever find love. This is just a part of man. She said, look, I got my period. I need you to get me some tampons. And he's like, some what? I don't know what that is. And she said, well, something. She said, I can't just be, bleeding. I got to have something to flush or something. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that. And she said, look, you gotta get me out of here. She's like, I'm done. I'm finished. And she's like, they're going to marry me off if the aunts find out. And so she's like, look, you got to call June. I want to talk to June. I want to get out. And he said, I done told you, I don't know June. And he's like, look, I'm your handler. I got a handler. And that's as far as it goes with me and Mayday. And she's like, I have got to get out of here. I can't do this. And he's like, look, a lot of people sacrificed because you said that you wanted to be here. He said, I want to bring down Gilead. And you said you did too. So you still want to do that or you don't? Back inside, Becca's dad, he approaches the girls. Agnes, Shu, Hulda. And he said, thank y'all so much for coming. And he says, Hulda and Agnes, I can't wait to see y'all again. And both of them like, what? Hulda's still getting these whitening treatments. And then Agnes, she has to make sure that her cap on her tooth, is okay. And she just runs out. While she's outside, she runs into Aunt Lydia. And so she says, did Aunt Vidalia tell you about Hulda? And she said, oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Agnes is like, she's telling the truth. I am very sure she is telling the truth. And Aunt Lydia's like, oh my gosh, like, you too. And so instead of offering her any kind of like, well, I'll take care of it, or I'll make sure this never happens again, or that it doesn't happen to somebody else, she says, look, the wicked, they will perish, they will not last, and they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. And I thought, say the rest of that scripture too. They shall mount up with wings and fly like eagles, because that's what y'all need to do. Get the hell out of Gilead. But I was like, Aunt Lydia, that's a beautiful scripture. And normally Isaiah would do it, but not in this situation. In this situation, we need some 1 Samuel. I need a good old smiting. Like, smite them down, Lord. Agnes is just like, okay, so you're not going to do anything? Because Aunt Lydia says, once you are married, and because you will be a woman in a position of power, she's like, you won't have to go to the dentist anymore. And she's like, you'll be fine. You and Huldah, y'all will have good lives. So she goes off and she's sitting by herself, and here comes Daisy. And so her and Daisy have a heart-to-heart. And she pulls out her pocket and she gives Daisy some pads. And Daisy's like, whoa, Shu told you about this? And she's like, who else did she tell? Did she tell the aunts? And so Agnes is like, no, she didn't tell anybody. And she's like, in times like this, you never turn on your friends. And she said, especially here in Gilead. And I thought, this is the main place they turn on their friends in quotes. Daisy says, well, that's maybe true, but here you are at your bestie's engagement party and you hiding outside. And she said, well, I'm not hiding from Becca. I'm hiding from her dad. And Daisy's like, what? And she said, yeah, he did things to me and I just can't be around him. And so Daisy's like, oh my gosh. And she's like, look, it is not your fault. I know it's easier to blame yourself than to blame him, but you're not responsible for this. And so Daisy's like, you know what? You need to go tell Aunt Lydia. And she's like, if you're scared, I'll go with you right now and we'll go tell her. And Annie said, I already told her. And Daisy's like, okay. And what's she going to do about it? And Agnes is just like, and she's crying. And so Daisy gives her a hug. And boy, this reignites the fire within Daisy. So she hugged Agnes tight. And she said, I'm so glad you told me. And then Agnes is narrating the episode. And she says, I could have had no idea what Daisy was about to do. And I said, what? And she says, as I said before, never trust a pearl girl. And I was like, here we go. Yes, little June Jr. Because I'm ready for some action. I'm ready for Daisy to start cutting up and giving these people a taste of their own medicine. I'm so ready. So I'm excited. This is episode 8. We got 2 more. I can't wait to see what the future brings. And Agnes seemed like in this episode, she is processing, coming to terms with that she's going to be married to Commander Weston. He seems to kind of be giving her a little bit of power. There's a part in the episode when they're talking about cake tasting and flower arrangements and things like this. And he's like, whatever you want, Agnes, you can get. You don't have to pick the things that Paula wants. And so she picks calla lilies for her flowers. Paula says, oh, why don't you consider some other flowers? And she says, Paula, I don't want to consider other flowers. And she looks at Commander West and he said, well, I think she made her decision. And Paula's like, okay, calla lilies it is. So she seems to be okay with this. She's getting married to Commander Weston, but girl, don't trust that. You may be a woman married to a powerful man, but that is not the same as you having power or you may even have power, but that's not the same as you being considered an equal or someone worthy, someone having value. I don't trust Commander Weston. I don't trust anybody with Commander attached to their name. But I am excited to see what the next couple of episodes bring. Let me know what you thought about this episode below. And I'm your TV movie bestie. Like, subscribe, and follow. And I will see y'all on the next show on the next episode. Bye, besties.